We are closing in on our first month of Duet Night Abyss, and that means we're also closing in on our first endgame reset. They have actually given us a few details on what to expect coming up on this first rotation for the next upcoming endgame. Now, of course, we knew that Fina and that new weapon was coming next, which did lead people to believe that it would be Lumino entering the theater next. However, it does seem that it's going to be Animo and Umbro upcoming. And additionally, Psyche along with her weapon are going to be cycling into the weekly pool, with Tabitha and her weapon cycling out into the normal purchasable grindable secret letter shop. So if you don't have her or her weapon, I highly suggest you pick it up, if only just for the XP. But of course, in this video I will be giving you the best advice on how to prepare for this upcoming endgame reset. Now, of course, beyond the elements, we have the additional modifiers, which will give us extra hints on what characters will necessarily be the best for this endgame mode. Now we have our first modifier. It states when any ally deals weapon damage, that hit's crit chance increases by 20% per elemental bonus effect on the target, stacking up to 4 times. And this is largely going to synergize the best with Fina's kit as a support character, as she will give every single character a lot of different elemental bonus damage effects. Next up, we have the Rogue Archive. For every 15 sanity spent by all allies in total, it will grant 20% skill damage increase for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times, which at max stacks will grant immunity to hit stun. And finally, we have Coordinated Adagio Soul Insight, where allies will lose 50% crit damage, but skill damage has a 100% chance to trigger an elemental bonus effect. And this is largely for anybody, but it's also probably to help benefit the crit chance up here as well, even if you're going to be getting lower crit damage. But of course, it's not a 50% reduction, it's just a reduction of 50 percentage points. So that means if you have 150% crit damage, you're not going to be going down to 75, you're just going to be going down to 100. And the same thing would go if you had 250, it'd go only down to 200. But obviously, with the increased crit chance, that'll kind of balance it out a little bit more. When it comes to the characters, Psyche is probably going to be the best option for you for this next endgame reset. She's already had success in the theater before, and she'll likely continue to, especially because if you so desire, you will be able to seek out extra introns for her through the weekly boss challenge. Now, importantly, the weekly boss will actually reset before the endgame cycles in and the new letters cycle in as well. So if you want to maximize your Psyche letter gain, you will have to wait a day for that to happen in order to use your weekly boss claims. When it comes to her introns beyond Intron 2, you're not going to be noticing any massive increases to damage. You will see some noticeable ones on 3 and 5. Number 4 is more so just for ease of use and extra tankiness. However, Intron 6 is where she will get a huge bonus to all of her damage. So she is very backloaded in her introns beyond her first and second one. So that is definitely something to consider if you are planning on going for extra copies of Psyche. But if you're planning on just building her, I haven't taken mine very far myself. She will have access to a lot of great options. We obviously have the ones that I've slotted in right here. Other things like Griffin's Squall, Blaze Volition, Duel, and of course Wings Inspo are all going to be really good options on her, depending on what you need. And when it comes to her weapons, obviously her signature is going to be the best on her, and X-Crez Duo is largely going to be the best option as well, unless you need a little bit more skill duration, though I don't think she will, especially if you run something like Wings Inspo for her. Now, when it comes to other character options, Outsider is someone that can be considered, especially if you use a weapon like Momiji Iteki on him. Momiji Iteki, while it is great for mobbing, is not as good for bossing, and I haven't currently found a weapon that is amazing for boss damage. Of course, we do still have all of the weapons over here, but notably, Outsider will not be able to make good use of the skill damage increases, and will only be utilizing the weapon damage and the crit rate effects from this next endgame reset. When it comes to the other DPS characters to consider, I definitely think Berenica is going to be another great option, but she does have certain things about her that will probably make her a bit more difficult to play with, compared to Psyche, and if you've already been playing the game, you would obviously already have Psyche. But of course, if you don't want to play her or you don't have her built, Veronica is another option to consider. And the final character, which I'd say is worth considering, is going to be Fantasio. Now, he won't be able to make use of any of the weapon effects or any of the crit effects, but he will make very good use of all of the ability damage effects. He is also a weekly locked character, but you will have another weekly reset to get the extra letters that you need in order to get his first copy. When it comes to the rest of the characters, I don't really think that there are any other DPS characters of note to utilize. Fina is going to be an amazing support and will likely replace Truffle on the majority of the teams that you're bringing into the theater, at the very least for this reset. Truffle might be a bit more beneficial to Psyche over Fina outside of this specific endgame, but when it comes to most people, or most teams, I imagine Fina is going to be a significantly more consistent and better damage increaser compared to Truffle, especially with some of the quirks about her support AI. But when it comes to other supports, Daphne is going to be really, really good for Psyche. Apart from that, Tabitha is probably going to be a great character to pair with Fantasio for that skill damage amplification. Though, if you are planning on getting and building Tabitha for support, I don't really see very much benefit in going to Introns for that purpose, because they're mostly only for increasing her personal damage, and also the tentacles to help keep people in place, but not really so much for her damage amping capabilities outside of the ones that increase the levels of her skills. So I'd say you're mostly only going to get the majority of her benefit as a support from her first copy, and you would most likely see more benefit from putting more investment into your main DPSs. But of course, she would pair very well with Fantasio, though when it comes to Berenica, you are most likely going to want to pair her with the MC, the Lumino MC, as well as the damage buffer such as Fina, probably going to be the best team, and obviously, before you get Fina from the theater, you're going to be using Truffle and Filbert, just because they are really good for their damage boosting capabilities. Something else to consider is that when you get Fina, you will also have to level her up. If you have your teams already mostly built out and you don't really have to consider them, you can start prepping for Fina, and because we already know that she's going to be a Lumino character, you can go ahead and stock up the Lumino Ascension materials. You can see that I already have a decent amount, especially when it comes to all the greens and blues. You probably have enough greens and blues to make the purples that you need if you've been grinding out the rest of your characters, unless you have already used them all up. Going through this exploration will definitely be really quick and will get you some letters as well. Beyond that, you can also stock up on some weapon ascension materials for her assault rifle, and I believe the assault rifles use the component bolts as their primary ascension material, which I have a lot of these already, mostly because I haven't been able to use them because most assault rifles are a part of the weekly boss pool. But of course, also the XP books are going to be another thing to look out for. If you've been fishing, which you should be doing, you will get a lot of XP materials when that month passes over. So definitely stock up on some fishing tokens so that you can get 40 gold XP books for both your character and your weapons, as well as 1,000,000 gold and 20,000 Carmine gloves. That'll be a massive bonus that'll definitely jumpstart your Fina building journey. And obviously, you can pre-prep any of the demon wedges that you would want to have on Fina through the Noctoyatron manual, because she is a support. Obviously, the Serenity and the Uplift from the Typhon series are going to be really good on her. And of course, you can get the Lumino Covenanter series, as well as the Wings Inspo, which will probably be one of the better options for her. But of course, those are the primary things you're going to want to consider leading up to this first endgame reset and this new upcoming character for Duet Night Abyss. And with all that said, if you're enjoying any of my coverage of Duet Night Abyss, be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you never miss a video covering this game. If you're excited for the new character, or if you're excited for Tabitha and her weapon to be entering into the shop for the covert commissions, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. With that all out of the way, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all next time.